Welcome back, art fans! The moment you've all been waiting for. How do we draw our insects? So, on the last day, I hastily handed out a bunch of these really beautiful etchings or prints that are French 18th century prints. I love them because they have a lot of detail and because they're copyright free. And I love this moth in particular. I like to paint moths and butterflies a lot anyway. But it's a death's head moth. I don't know if you can see that. It looks kind of like a skull right there. So sometimes in literature, it will represent a sense of foreboding or something dark is coming. This you can still use, absolutely, but it's really big and we don't want our insects, whether they're butterflies or something else, to be any bigger than 1 inch wide. Now I sketched this myself because I don't have a printer. If you do have a printer, you can go on and print a little version of this, even smaller, like half this size. So I'll show you so you have an idea of scale. On my piece under here, this guy it's still pretty big, it's in the foreground, about almost 1.5 inches wide. This one is, if we look at the whole wingspan, about a little like 2 3/4. So that it needs to be a little smaller than that. I would try to print it so it's small. So I sketched this one just to give you an idea of a simpler form and detail. Because we're making them so small, you're definitely not going to need all of this. You just won't be, your charcoal pencil can't fit in all those little places. So once we've selected your insect and you printed it, and I've also posted other examples of simple line drawings you're welcome to print and use. The only requirement is that it must be, symmetrical. Okay, and you remember that means the same on both sides. Now, insects aren't completely symmetrical. Sometimes they have little changes. You can see even here when I was sketching this one, it changed a little. We're gonna make ours symmetrical, and I'm gonna teach you a trick on how to do that so that it looks like both sides are the same. We're gonna go back to the beginning of the year when you learned how to do the not a horse we drew upside down. We're gonna do the same thing here. We're gonna draw this upside down. I've cut it down so that I don't see a lot of edges, but if you remember, the point of upside down drawing was to trick our brain so we didn't know what we were drawing. We imagine we're drawing abstract lines and shapes rather than something realistic. We also draw negative shapes, so I'm going to create negative shapes here. So if I want to draw that, it's easier for my mind to process this shape. I'm going to draw right on it. So say this is your photocopy, you can draw right on this, these kind of, so I've got like, it's my mountain or volcano, right? And there's lumpy, bumpy rocks down there. You guys have good imaginations, you can imagine that. I can draw another line here. This looks like part of a face. There's a nose and then a mouth, right? She's got long hair. And then I can even draw, if I need to divide that up a couple times, I can. That is, I don't know what that is. You guys will think of something good. An open mouth. This is just a big triangle, so we can keep that pretty simple. And I'm going to draw a line straight down the center. So I've divided this up into its negative shapes. And then I'm going to fold it. And the easiest way for me to fold it is back this way so I can really see that edge. And if there's anything sticking out the other side, we don't want that to be distracting. This was on some scrap paper, so let's cut that down. So all we want to see to get set up is the upside down version and negative shapes around it. So if you didn't know what this was, if I didn't tell you what this was, you hadn't seen it before, you probably wouldn't know what it is now. I'm going to have to shrink it even further, so I'm going to do that right now as I copy it. But hopefully you'll be able to print yours the size you want, and you can just try to copy it as much as possible. Again, when we set up, we want our eyes to travel the least amount of distance between these things. I actually like this way better. It's not upside down, it's sideways, but I like that. If you want to tape it down, you can. I'm just using I've cut my piece of sulfite white paper in half, and that's what I'm using. So my goal right now is just to get the outline. Okay, so we start with the big shapes first. I'm going to hold them right there in his little body. Don't move, don't fly away. And I'm going to start with this little baby triangle right there. Remember, I'm shrinking it. Okay, so I'm going to try to make it a little smaller than it is. Then I see that shape, so I'm just going to keep on going down so it comes out a little, and then whoop, right there. Okay, then I can draw this. So I'm actually drawing the outer shapes before I get to the negative shapes. You see what I mean? Then I can come in and draw those negative shapes. So right here is actually where the edge of the wing is. We're not thinking about a wing right now. We're going to imagine this is something totally different. So I'm going to draw my, what did we say, volcano, right? So I'm looking back and forth, and I'm just drawing that volcano shape. I don't have to get into all those little details yet. I'm going to come back and do that. We're just getting a general shape right now. Then, where my volcano ends, it goes in a little bit, right? Comes out further, so I'm looking at this shape, this negative shape. So there's got a little triangle point. I'm getting too big, I can tell already. So if you start making that mistake, you can get an eraser. It can still erase it. Unless you press super hard, this is really easy to erase. So I'm going to line that up. That actually comes out as far as that, and then it goes bloop. Gotta make noises while you do it, remember? All these lines have noises. I'm still getting too big, guys, but that's okay. And then this is going to be like in the way foreground now. It's going to be better for you if you get the right size. Okay, so then I'm going whoop. See that line? That's the noise it makes. All right. So I may have got too big on this one. I was pretty good there. So let's pull this in a little bit. Doesn't matter what's on the outside. We're going to cut it down anyway. We're going to collage this and just cut it out. That's a little bit more proportional. Okay. Now I'm going to go back and look at that shape more closely. And it does something interesting as it comes into here. Has a kind of a swoop there. This almost looks like somebody's weird long foot with toes, right? And I can work. I'm trying to do this quickly, but I could work to refine these shapes. And these are like, I don't know, like peas in a pod maybe. I'm gonna leave plenty of room for all my little details around it. So, you know, we're shrinking things quite a bit, and that's why we can't get super detailed in here, okay? Then out here, where my toes end, I'm going to pull those out just a little bit further. I start getting these little tiny, and they don't have to be exactly in the same place. Things can move around a little bit. I know when we talked last, we talked about the symbolism of a butterfly, and you guys mentioned that to you, it represented freedom, growth, change. So I think it's important when you choose your imagery to know what it means, and it can have a personal meaning and also can have a symbolic meaning. So whatever insect you do choose, and I've labeled them the name of the insect if I've been able to find it, so you can research it and see what it means in say Asian art or other literature. And then we can draw like half the body. So I see an antenna, I see a little bit of the bug eyes in the head, and then I've got the body, thorax, coming down like this. That's not quite connecting. I'm gonna let that come down a little bit further. So now I can erase my negative shapes. I can find my eraser, which I've hidden for myself, if you want to. And this is where the fun part starts. So after you've drawn it generally, and I'm going to work on that drawing a little bit more before I do this, we're going to fold this over, transfer this onto the other side. That's in the next demo, so stay tuned.